Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Legion Season 2, Episode 2. It's called Chapter 10. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. Honestly, if I'm going to mess up those titles, it's because I'm going to assume that I don't have to think about it, because it's just the next chapter, but I'm going to confuse myself by the numbering.
You'll either forget what chapter you were on, or you'll say the same chapter as the episode number.
Yeah, that'll be what happens if I mess it up. But hey, so episode 2 of the season, obviously we left last one with the big Sid from the future, possibly giving us this warning: help him, help the Shadow King, find his body because we'll need him. And I feel like this episode kind of surprised me in how it seemed to confirm a bit more, at least. I mean, they could still swerve us, but it seems to be going down the path of this is really Sid from the future.
I'm less convinced after this week, shockingly.
You're less convinced? Okay,
I
interesting.
Based on... Okay, the reason that sowed doubt in my mind last week was the infomercial section, right?
What we got again this time, yeah?
And it's the same thing, that the more I'm seeing of this time it was about the perception of reality. And I'm going, okay, everything we're seeing here is from David's perception of this.
Oh, it's always been, yeah.
Right. So, and the fact that it's going out of its way to highlight it makes me less sure that it's real.
It's funny, because I feel like the swerve is so obvious that I almost believe it can't be a swerve at this point. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Because it's like... I mean, you could obviously be like, oh no, it was Farouk the whole time, it wasn't really Sid from the future. But the scene where he goes into the tank and he asks Carrie, and we'll talk about what's different with them in a minute, but, you know, he says, oh, can you jig the tank so that I can maybe go beyond? Like, it's as if Carrie's just got, like, oh yeah, I can do that, yeah. I can break the space-time continuum and send you whatever you want.
Yeah.
But he goes back into the future, and we get a very Twin Peaks-esque scene of him talking to future Sid. I say Twin Peaks-esque, it reminded me a lot of the Pink Room in episode 3 of The Return of Twin Peaks, if you recall that, with the stuttering video effect. That was it wasn't as extreme in this, but it was still kind of there. It reminded me of that.
I'm with you.
The way it was kind of like jumping little frames here or there, or skipping back the way it was kind of doing that thing throughout. And we got more, again, at least what we'd kind of assumed from what she said last time. Assuming this is real, right? I have to keep saying that. Assuming this is on the up and up. It seems there is a third party of some kind. That said, if I am going to play the other side here and go with this is all bullshit, the thing that's suspicious to me from her in this scene, right? Most of it plays like I would expect. She feels kind of awkward being around him. He's like, am I dead? Is that why you're weird seeing me? He's like, it's complicated. And I'm like, you know what, I buy that with this show. Yeah, it's complicated. You're not just dead. You're trapped in a head somewhere or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so the emotion of the scene and her kind of standoffishness, and the way she left as well, where he's like, well, if it was up to you, would you want to see me again like this? And she sort of nods. The way that all played felt very natural and felt very believable to be said. The bit that the statement from her that struck me as suspicious is when she's saying, oh, so that's, you know, she's describing how bad it is in the future. I mean, we see some like shots, and I really like this part actually. It was very atmospheric, but we see like just this sort of desolate outside world, and there's like nothing there. Everyone's meant to be in hiding. And she says, oh, we'll need the Shadow King for what's coming next. You kill him in about a week. You're going to bash his head in.
Yeah.
Which I thought, okay, alright, so that's interesting, that knowledge to have. At least if that's what's supposed to happen. And she's like, and he asks her, so who's this other thing that's coming? And she says, oh, that's not important. That bit strikes me as suspicious.
Yeah, because it feels like, yeah, that's kind of important to stop it, right?
Yeah. Unless, stay with me here, unless David's the thing that causes the bad stuff, and that's why she doesn't want to tell him.
Could be. That would go into the whole complicated.
Yeah. They might need the Shadow King to stop David.
No, it's possible. Don't get me wrong.
So if we're going with this is real, this is really hard, and this all really happens, that might be the way it works out. Is that and that's why it's complicated. Yeah. That's the only thing I can think of that makes that it's not important, because she doesn't want to tell him because he can't know this going forward.
No, it's true.
So that'd be my guess.
You mentioned the potential third party, and I think something that's very interesting is the use of color, right? Yeah, the Shadow King stuff that was always very red, and Division 3 is often very blue, right? Yeah, they're the two sides.
This was purple.
This was purple,
Yeah.
yes, which is again, that mix of colors. I think it's worth noting though that last week the light that she was using, that when obviously she couldn't talk, was just that was blue. Whereas this one now is different, and she can talk. So, are we even sure this is the same version, the same thing that we saw last week?
That is opening a whole new can of worms of speculation, because if this is different, if this is like, is the Shadow King infected him, so it's manipulating what he's seeing? Because I mean, it's worth mentioning here at the start of the episode. So they go off on a mission. He like, because of what Future Sid has told him, he goes on this. He's like, okay, let's go meet him, but we need to help him, right? He convinces, okay, I've seen Oliver out here, so they go out to this place in the desert, and we had the dreamy bit beforehand where it's like Oliver is there talking to himself at this fortune teller booth, saying he's coming, and then we get them arriving in the desert in their armed trucks. They get out, and all it is a music box, and basically it's all a distraction, because we cut back to the Division 3 base, and Oliver and Lennie are going through the base, making people explode into nothing before they decide to turn a couple into a pig and a fish, respectively.
Yeah. Singing as they go.
Singing as they go. Obviously, has this very interesting thing. Obviously, there's a moment during this, actually, where I think it's Oliver looking through the window at all the chattering teeth people, all the infected people. And there's a glimpse of someone else instead of him. Like, the camera goes past one of the people inside, and he changes for a split second.
Mm.
And I noticed that, and I went, I have no idea who that was. I didn't recognise that person. It gets answered by later in the episode. I thought they were going to leave us dangling there and be like, oh, who was that that guy in a suit for the brief second we saw him. That actually comes up in the episode. We see a lot more of that as we go on. So where do you even begin with the rest of this stuff? So we'll start with David. We'll start with David and Shadow King. We'll maybe go back for a little bits as we go. But so, just the mere fact that the Shadow King was in the base, and we never actually really got. I mean, sure, the ultimate thing that the Basket Man thinks he was there for, and what Melanie thinks he was there for, is he's looking for this monk. This monk of this group of monks are the ones who hid his body. So he was looking for this monk.
Yeah, there's only one left.
On face value, that's what he was there for. I do have to wonder if he was up to other things as well.
Yeah, I do too.
So with all this confusion, David basically decides to go speak to, well, technically Oliver, technically Shadow King, but however you want to phrase it. He goes into his head. He wants to go talk to him, and they meet back out in the fortune teller place in the middle of nowhere. And he's there on his own. It's a very well done scene, because he's sitting on his own, and he rings the bell, and immediately, person appears. It is this guy in the suit from earlier on that we've got a glimpse of, and very quickly he realizes this is what he really looks like. This is the Shadow King in his true form. When we find his body, presumably this is what we're going to find.
This is what we can expect, right? Or some decomposed mess.
And okay, so this is interesting. Okay, and right away this guy's got presence. I'm kind of liking his weird attitude, because he is so many hundred years old. This is actually he's got this kind of deviant wisdom about him, if that makes sense.
He does, even the way he casually just switches between languages, just on the fly. Kind of. I mean, obviously people can do that, but it has this air of experience, doesn't it?
Yeah. And what we actually get here is a really entertaining little sequence of David tries to read his mind, and Shadow King just goes, oh, we're doing this. And it goes into the visual representation of them trying to like sort of telepathically battle, where at first it's just like a sort of amateur wrestling match, and then for it, sort of, oh, you're thinking about this the wrong way. He has a sword, and he's ready for, he's evolved the combat, and then David just sort of smirks and turns into a tank.
and then again, to combat that, he just turns into this like storm, like a wind dust storm.
A tornado, no, not really a term, but yeah, like just a revolving cloud. And it's like, okay, so this doesn't really go very far. It's basically just this, okay, you're outmatched here, or at the very least we're equals, and you're not going to get very far.
It's a stalemate. I think that's the point. He shoots the tank into the cloud. Nothing happens. That's kind of the point. It's like, well, we just do this all day.
Yeah. And basically David's here to say, hey, look, I was told in the future to help you. or I mean, he doesn't say that's where how he knows to help him, but he's like, yeah, I'm willing to help you find your body, but no more killing, because when they came to the Division 3 earlier on, they killed like 11 people. You know, Clark's pissed about that. Clark's more convinced than ever that David's up to no good. He's, you know, making him sit in the exact same table in the cafeteria and being like, hey, you know, I lost 11 of my men. You know, they had that sparring match again.
I think it's pretty fair of him to be suspicious at this point.
I mean, yeah, I can't really fault it. I mean, everyone kind of sticks up for him, because even Melanie, like when they go to see Basket Man, and like, you know, the Vermilion, the mustache women are all doing their robotic. Was like, oh, there's a 60-something% chance that you're deceiving us right now. And they was like, what? Why am I deceiving you? And Melanie kind of sticks up for him and says, hey, maybe don't insult the one person who gives you a chance of like beating him.
Yeah. And another fun note on something I mentioned earlier: Vermilion, also a shade of red.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so, you know, just this little dichotomy there between them.
Yeah, I don't trust Basket Man. This is all very fishy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially since we don't actually, in the infomercial portion narrated by John Hamm, we get this red and green story. Not red and blue, red and green, of someone, Oliver, it's Oliver there, and John Hamm's narrating, and they're talking about the concept of reality, and human beings, because they have to decide what is real and what is not, we go mad, whereas other animals theoretically don't, because they just, you know, they don't understand anything differently.
Right. This is not just the concept of, you know, of reality, it's that we have to share reality. We all have to be on the same page. It's, you know, we have all agreed that red is red and green is green. And it's when one person disagrees, that's when they go mad, because they're different to everyone else for whatever reason.
That said, I have often had this theory that everyone sees every colour differently than everyone else, but it's always consistent.
Quite possibly. I mean, at least you can scientifically measure like the wavelength of a colour.
That's true.
So you can define this is this thing, regardless of how you see it. This is what it is.
I've always had this thought that everyone sees different colours differently, but they always see them, obviously, like the colours that are related. You always see the correlation in relation to what you saw. So red to pink still looks like the same amount of difference to someone else. Yeah. But I might see that as yellow to you.
No, that's true. And ultimately, though, that might be true. It's impossible to test.
It's impossible to test that, yeah, because we all see what we see.
But that's the same thing that this infomercial is making the point out. We are consistent in our reality. We agree that we both call this red. Whatever we perceive it as, we agree that this is red.
Obviously, the counter to that, I mean, again, but I suppose this could just be reinforced by what people tell you, but we see red as meaning danger. But I suppose even if you see that as blue, if you've always been told that one means danger, then it doesn't matter.
No, exactly. That's the thing in this infomercial. He says, you know, okay, so red is, you know, the opposite.
Yeah, red is green and green is red. And when we cut to, you know, this kid's older, he's been taught this his whole life, and he's taken to, a road, you know, traffic lights, and he's like, hey, so remember, red means go, green means stay. And he gets hit by a car. You don't actually see it. I actually like it. It does this little just quick zoom on Oliver as he goes, oh.
Yeah.
It's a very, nasty kind of reaction. So very entertaining, and obviously I think these infomercial segments are very key in terms of, because there's a couple of points in the episode where you do see the trail of goo from the again.
A couple of even flashes to the egg of the infomercial.
Oh, it's during the infomercial itself. It's when he actually says red is green and green is red. It cuts to a quick glimpse of the open egg with the goo monster thing out of it. So definitely these feel like they're setting up the themes of the season, and what is reality, what is not. And I think what's interesting is that David, he makes these choices. He goes to Sid, and again we have Sid swapped with a cat. But I'll be honest, I could have had that entire scene with him talking to the cat, with Sid inside the cat. That was amusing to me. But he's like, hey, can you switch back? By the way, did you notice during this scene there was lots of green hands in the sky?
I can't say I did.
It's basically, how like big inflatable balloons, there was a lot, but it was all throughout the city, from several like rooftops, there was big floating green hands pointing like that.
Interesting. Were they pointing in a consistent direction?
Nah, they seem to be all over the place.
Okay.
But it was kind of noticeable because lots
One
of
of those
green
things that once you
hands.
notice it, that's it. You're never
Yeah,
unseeing it.
there was just lots of green hands in the sky. And if we're going with colors again, I don't know if like the fact that this is green, but it actually means red danger or something. You know, like I don't know
Right,
if we're going with
that's what
that.
I'm thinking. Like, honestly, these infomercials feel like they're some of the most important parts of the episodes right now. Like, they're the crux of, okay, anything you can think of, base them around what we're telling you in these.
Yeah, or it's one huge misdirect.
Well, and that's the thing. The first one was, okay, if a delusion, you stick to it and you go with it. So the more we think of an idea, the more they show us that could reinforce that, the more they're encouraging us in the wrong direction, essentially. And the same here. It's like, well, you kind of see what you want to see. Is kind of what they're saying here with the perception of reality.
So he tells Sid, he's like, Future Sid told me not to tell anyone, but it's technically you, so this is a loophole. So, Future you told me to help him because something else is coming and we need to help him. And she's very, she's like, how much in the future? Like a week? Like a year? Was it older? Obviously he doesn't mention the missing arm because don't want to be
You don't
freaking
want to
anyone out.
worry, yeah? No.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, if that's what, then fine. Like so she agrees to look for this monk and find this monk, and this is obviously getting towards the end of the episode, and we see the monk's the guy we saw last week. We saw him in one of the nightclub scenes walking around.
Yeah, which is very interesting to me because assuming that the nightclub was a real event that happened, right?
Well, the nightclub's a real event that happened. I don't know if what we saw of it was the real glimpse of what happened, or if that was an interpretation of what happened.
No, no. Okay, that's my point. So it brings on to two theories. If you assume it was real and he was there, when does that take place? Because presumably not in the past, the way we think of it, because otherwise, would Farouk not have recognized the monk there?
Well, that's you assuming that he's physically there. I don't know if I
Yep.
necessarily agree with that.
No,
Because
that's fair.
because when we saw him, it was kind of like as it was replaying, and he seemed to be walking around kind of independently of what the flashback was doing, if that makes
It
any
does.
sense.
Which begs the question then is, okay, how is he there? Like, is he, does he have some mental abilities as well?
Possibly. It wouldn't shock me in this case. Um, but yeah, so he agrees, and he agrees to help Shadow King, because Shadow King is like, yeah, I won't kill, it's boring, but I won't do it. How long that'll last and how much we can trust him, I would not put a lot of money on. But that's where we are. Honestly, one of the most fascinating scenes to me in this episode is after David leaves and Shadow King's on his own, Farouk's on his own, Lennie shows up, sorry.
Yeah.
Lemmy, not the Moorhead singer. Lennie shows up and she's kind of there, and it's a very pretty shot. He's they're out in the field, and got a lot of light effects, lens flares and that kind of thing from the sun. And she's just kind of like behind him, saying, "Hey, now that you've got, you've revealed who you really are, you've shown your true form, and you've got Oliver. Like, I could leave. Like, I could go." And he's like, "Well, but you're dead. Your body's not there anymore." He's like, "Well, yeah, but you could get me a new one or something." And I think it's interesting because it immediately made me question how much of everything we've seen from Lennie, how much of that has actually been her at the behest of the Shadow King, and how much of it is just being the Shadow King himself.
Yeah, because this is the first time that's properly confirmed that this is. Oh no, she was an independent person at some point, right? Not just some personification of the Shadow King.
I think we always knew she was real in the hospital. I think we did, but in terms of like since then when she's been appearing, like we got the sense that okay, he's absorbed her, but is he just appearing as her, or is she actually kind of in there? Is her psyche in there? And it seems to be. And my guess right now would be that it's still mostly just been him pretending to be her and using her image, but it's hard to say.
I don't know if it's more of a okay, you go off and do your thing, but be a bit zany. But this is what you've got to do. This is what you got to tell him. Because
I'm thinking of like scenes. Remember in season 1, the whole dancing scene where she was like, thrilled that she was causing all this awfulness, and she had all of everyone trapped in the mental asylum. And when I say mental asylum, I mean an asylum inside her head, not an asylum for mental people. Although it's kind of a double meaning, I suppose, when you think about it.
Yeah.
because I'm thinking of that, and I'm like, would she really orchestrate all that? I feel like that's still the Shadow King doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean, unless again, it comes down to something we've mentioned a couple of times already, like an infection. Like, does the Shadow King kind of infect her personality? He doesn't take over it. He doesn't, become her in a literal sense, but more just his essence kind of seeps in and, kind of changes the personality a bit.
I think that's maybe getting too specific to say this is definitely what's always happening, though.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't say that
because like that in the scene in this episode where we see him for a split second, when it's Oliver at first, I fully believe it's the Shadow King in complete control who's watching through the window right there.
Yeah,
and I think I would say a lot of the Lennie stuff is that as well, where it's just him in complete control.
Makes sense.
I find it hard to believe that he's been letting someone just kind of do it for him the whole time, and he's not really been,
Yeah, he's just been backseat driving the whole time.
Yeah. That doesn't feel quite right. I feel like he's been in more control than that. So I think it's more that she's trapped in there, and maybe sometimes it is her, sometimes it's him using her image, but it's hard to say specifically how much.
It is.
But I thought it was interesting because there was kind of a sadness to the scene. There was a sadness to her wanting to get out, and and he's like, but there's no body, and he just kind of ignores her, and she's like, well, I'm getting out eventually, right? And we get that scene where he unzips reality, and they're just standing in white, and he's like, well, if you get out, what then? She's like, oh, well, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then
she says, I'll live life to the fullest.
Yeah, and then die. Though that was the point I was getting to. She ends up with and then die, and then he says, and then what? And the point I think he's making here is that in here she's immortal. She doesn't have to die in here.
Exactly.
So no, it's again, show deals with a lot of heady concepts.
Yeah, it's so dense, isn't it? In the way there's so much information in every episode.
Oh yeah. It packs so much stuff in. Obviously, Melanie's still miserable, and she's like basically giving up. Like, hey, David, run off with Sid. Just screw the world. Just go, love your life. It's fine. Because he believes he wants to save the world. And what's funny is, like, is there actually a threat to the world? Is this all just a fabrication? Therefore, and this goes back to, like, are we been messed about with what is real, what is not? And if there is no real threat, then, is that what creates David as a threat?
Yeah. I love that. I genuinely have no idea what's real and what's not anymore. Like, there are things that I could think are, but there are a lot of it I'm like, okay, but is it? Because it's actively encouraged me to question things now.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff you can still say is definitely real. I still think most of the scenes that were, it's him talking to people and stuff, I think they're clearly still real. I think when you question things, it's the messages from the future, it's what Farouk is showing him. I think when he's in Division 3 and he's talking to everyone else, I don't think you can assume that there's anything wrong with there.
They're probably quite real, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So I'm thinking, those hands were green. And we're taught green is red and red is green. So what does that actually mean?
That's the point, isn't it? It's like, okay, they're telling us these specific things. And like I said, we typically use red for danger, and green is good. That's what red stop, green go.
Yeah.
But they flipped it. But so here is the red is it okay? Stop telling her.
But it's not red. It's green.
No, I know. But if we take if it's green,
no. But that's my point. Green. That's my point. You can't take it as one or the other because you don't know if it's swapped because they told you it's swapped, or if they're saying no, it's still green because green still means green. Stop overthinking it. Like it's still what it is.
That's what I was getting to. I was like, is it that, or is it the one you've just said? I don't know because is it saying no? Okay, no, this is red because we've just told you that that's red, so stop. Or is it just no, ignore that? This is just a red herring, essentially.
Oh, don't use the phrase red herring. You're just adding more colours to the mix. Stop it.
It's the same colours. It's just a different context.
No, but red herring would mean it's actually green. So shut up. So it makes you question that. Obviously, we mentioned Carrie and Carrie. Obviously, Shadow King does do a thing to them. He makes them flip, and by flip I mean now he goes inside her. That sounds really dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the
it was a
context
very
of them,
amusing scene at first, like where at first it was just like they didn't know how to merge again. Like he'd made them forced to be separate.
No, he just doesn't know how to go in her because they've always done it the other way around.
Yeah.
Because later on we see that he also doesn't know how to come out, and she has to kind of sing to help him,
get
to peace so he can come out.
It's such a great image when she turns around and there's just his arm sticking out of her chest.
Yeah. Obviously, again, it's very sort of wacky and psychedelic and kind of just these weird visuals, which
Yeah.
the show's very good for. Even when they go to the music box at the start, there's like a lot of lens flares. Very very similar shot actually. It's kind of like we're. It's almost like that indicates that the Shadow King's in complete control. Is that wide shot with all the lens flares? Because in both cases,
Yeah.
it was the wider aspect ratio was the 2.4:1, and there was a lot of lens flares. It was very cinematic. And I wonder if that's maybe a rule that we can look at going forward.
It's something to keep an eye out
Yeah.
for. It just reminded me one of my favorite small touches is after David leaves talking to the Shadow King, and he smudges out the fortune teller booth. Just because you see it from like looking at him, and he just looks like he's just up there wiping his thumb in midair, and then it flips, and it's he's wiping, literally just smudging it out. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that was a really nice little image.
Yeah. So to go back round to the central mystery, right?
Yep.
Right. The reason why I started this by saying that I felt like it was more likely to be real than not is because the emotion of everything Sid was saying in the future, emotionally, again, ignoring the contents of what she's saying, ignoring the details, just how she reacts to David, how she dances around things, it felt like it was really hurt to me.
That's fair. I can't argue with that.
So my gut says that we're really getting a message from Sid from the future. However, what she's telling him, the events that we think we're hearing about, aren't exactly correct.
Yes, she may not be being truthful.
My bold guess at this point is that David's the one who actually loses control and causes everything to go wrong, and that's why the Shadow King needs to be sort of saved, is to fight David later on. That'd be
Yeah.
my guess right now. I may be completely talking nonsense, but that's
No,
my...
it works. I mean, it makes sense, but the way that we see the world, it's like it's like a plague, right? Is how she describes it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, how does he cause a plague?
Well, I mean, it's if it's this teeth chattering things is what spills out to it. If that's like a mental thing, and David causes some sort of mental,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
that's
know,
true.
ripple effect, I guess, if you want to call it that. That's probably my best guess right now, because obviously it's interesting because it flips it and means David, ultimately David, if that is the story, he's going to have to gain control. Like, to save the world, he has to gain control of himself, and that's the entire show is in a lot of ways has been about him maintaining control of his own powers. So
Yeah.
that would thematically tie into the whole show. It's kind of interesting from a personal journey point of view, and adds
Just
more drama to the whole everyone not being able to trust him. Side
yeah,
of
I'm
things.
so fascinated to see if he kills the body or not in the next week or so, from whatever she says.
Does he smash his head into the
It,
desert?
but that's the thing now. If he does it, is it an accident? Is he trying to avoid it, and an accident? And he ends up being put in the situation where he has to because he's actively trying not to. Like, is this what causes it, or can he get out of this? Can he just not do it? And okay, now we're going down something different. And okay, he saved him, but now how do we stop him? Like, is it just opening up to an equally big threat?
All good questions.
And yeah, I have no answers right now, obviously. But
all questions. I don't have an answer for you, but just to go back to the Carrie and Kerry thing. Joe, it's funny. As soon as it became clear they switched, I thought, oh, this makes a lot of sense for them to switch, because we heard last season how she's only been aging when she's out, and that's why she's so young compared to him, and he was worried what would happen when he dies. I thought, well, maybe this is a good thing, because maybe if you switch now, you'll age much slower, and she'll age, at a more normal rate, and you'll
they'll
sort of
even out.
You'll even out. There's a weird thing though when he comes out where she gets like this strand of grey hair, which maybe implies that she's going to instantly age to his age, which would be less than ideal.
Yeah, that wouldn't be great, would it? I mean, they'd still be even at that point.
Yeah, but she's not got to. I mean, I know she's
No,
in
but
there
it
talking
would
to
feel
him,
like
but
she'd be cheated.
yeah.
No,
So
I agree.
that would suck for her, but hey. But that was worth mentioning. Yeah. So that's the whole thing. Yeah, still great. Like I was wrapped
Yeah.
up in it the
Yeah,
entire
I really
time.
love this episode.
Yeah, it was solid stuff. And I do want to just reiterate again. I think there was a worry that when they gave us like what this who the Shadow King really was, and it's not Lennie anymore. Like would that lose some of its mystique? Would it lose some of its presence? And luckily they cast it so well that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So far, he's
No, that
working
that
for me.
scene with the pair of them talking was fantastic.
He's got this smug wisdom about him. This
Yeah.
I know everything better than you because I've been around for so long. With a
Mm.
smirk on his face that it just makes it work. So no, I'm looking forward to more. So that is Legion season 2 episode 2. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a link in the description. But otherwise, that's us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?